All right, what is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I got a special guest with me today. It's Virtual Deity. You may know him, you may have seen him on the ladder or lurking in some Twitch streams, but me and Deity, we go back to the Soulburn days. I don't know if you remember that. Talking about tech cards at Soul Shatter. You remember that one?
I was actually going to say, it's funny, but I almost forgot about that's kind of where we started. Yeah, it was good times.
For sure. And when the PTR came out, this was the man I was going to, hey, look at this list. What do you think of this? What do you think of this card? Da 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 da. And you guys know me. I love my death. Virtual Deity is also a gentleman of death, so it was good collaborating.
We had some fun ideas going into Divine Order. Not all of them have panned out, but you know,
not all of them. Some of them.
We'll see what eventually comes to fruition as the meta starts to change and things start to even out a little bit.
For sure. I do believe we're in a good spot now. I mean, there are certain decks that are kind of running rampant, some of the control ones, but Death got a lot of new interesting cards, and I'm excited to talk about them with you today. Cool, so let's go ahead, we'll jump in. We'll start off with the 1-mana cards. The first one is Blood Armor, and I always thought this was an interesting card because it's a 1-mana spell, and it says set one of your creatures' armor to 1, deal 2 damage to your god. So you're getting armor on a creature, and you get to pick the creature, which is important. You've played this card a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah, I did a little bit of testing with it in a few decks. I think armor has proven to be stronger than a lot of people anticipated. You know, Death does have god damage synergy, but I think overall, you know, having these take up 2 cards in your deck, I think it's kind of falls below average. I think the most you can hope for as far as value goes is, you know, you get to play this on a Fickle Cambion. You get the 1 armor to that. You deal 2 damage to your god. It gets the +1 attack. You know, it's okay value, but taking up 2 cards in the deck seems like, you know, 1 or 2. I just feel like you could probably find something else.
Yeah, I think I feel about the same way. Like, it's not a bad card, it's a good card, and it has some synergies, like with the Fickle Cambion. I think this would also be good on something like a Pyramid Warden, but at the end of the day, I don't know if it's enough value to justify. I mean, you can only have 30 cards in a deck, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is going to be one of them, at least for me.
I would say, you know, something to keep in mind, it does say, you know, set one of your creatures' armor to 1. You know, I've made the mistake of trying to play this on something that already had armor, you know, thinking it would give it 2 armor, and, you know, maybe in that world, you know, it could see play because 2 armor is quite a bit, but yeah, I think it's just a fair card, and, you know, right now, fair cards aren't going to see play, but I think maybe, you know, when it's generated by Thievery, you know, or other ways that it's generated, you know, not terrible, but taking up 2 card slots in the deck is definitely not something that I'm looking at.
Yeah. Could you imagine if this was add 1 armor and you put this on a Bronze Gate or something? That'd be insane.
That'd be absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
Frenzied Aggro's win rate would drop immediately.
All right, then let's take a look at this next one. We got the Desecrated Shrine, and it's a 2/2 structure with backline, but it can attack, and at the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to both gods. It's an interesting card. I know when I see 2 damage to both gods, it makes me think of the Soulburn God Power. Obviously, this is without the burn, but does the 2 damage to both of them at the start of the turn. It's kind of a risky card to play, right? Because you're damaging yourself.
You know, if this card, when it came out during trials, I think it would have seen a lot of play. You know, I'm a huge fan of structures. You know, I think there's a lot of, you know, untapped synergies in there right now just because of how strong other things are. But yeah, I'd say right now it's a little too risky. to just put in a deck.
Especially with how fast the meta is with these war decks. You've got Hidden Rush. There's people playing fast magic decks or face spell magic. It is a little bit risky, but I mean, Death does have a lot of healing cards to where, you know, you might be able to take 2 damage each turn and then just heal it back. But
yeah, I mean, if it has the support, you know, I think it's definitely a card that may someday see more play. You know, like I said, I'm a fan of structures. Also, being a 1 mana drop, not to jump to like other Divine Order cards, but maybe some Tri-Age Necromancer gameplay in there. You know,
remind me what that does.
That's the 5 mana card that pulls a random 1 mana creature from either void onto the board.
Oh, the legendary, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which we'll get to that when we get to that. You know, I mean, I think, like I said, I didn't want to jump ahead, but you know, we got to talk about synergies here. I think it's a possibility of a cool synergy. You know, I'd like to see more of this card, but I think right now it doesn't have a strong place.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, with the removal of Soul Burn, it kind of, you know, there's decks that just aren't being played, like they're just gone, right? And I think cards like this could get you could put together a list that's kind of similar to that sort of play style. And I think this card would fit into that list, but it's just not being played right now. And I don't know if it's just not good or if we haven't, as a community, figured out a list that it's gonna work in.
Oh, Baba, I guess that's where we started, so I guess we'll have to be the ones to figure it out.
Yeah, I think we will. Alright, well, let's take a look at this next one. The Undead Roach, and I like this one. It's a cool card. It's just a 2/2 nether, but it has a unique afterlife. If you are frenzied, pull this creature into your hand. So what you can do here is maybe you hit face with one creature, and then the Undead Roach trades out another creature. It dies off, but then comes back to your hand. So if you play it correctly, it just keeps coming back. It's a value generator. I think the downside is it's just a 2/2. I mean, those stats are pretty basic, but it is 1 mana. I think it's a decent card.
You know, I think it's a fair card in the list where it works. You know, I've actually played a little bit of this in like a zombie deck with, you know, Nefarious Will or Corpse Explosion. And in those decks, you know, if you're frenzied when you play like Corpse Explosion, right, the Undead Roach does go back to your hand, which is actually pretty decent value. If you're able to, let's just say, hit face and Untold Greed it, you know, you could play it back onto the board, like if you don't really have much else, or if you don't have another good target for Untold Greed, like you don't want to kill off a more important target. If you could just get frenzied, you could use all of those sacrifice spells on the Undead Roach, which is actually quite decent. Or, you know, have 1 or 2 on the board when you play Nefarious Will. You know, you get the 2/2 from 1 or 2 of them, and they go back to your hand. So I think in a deck like that, it actually is quite good. Yeah, and it's got the Nether tag, which is not to be overlooked.
And I always loved playing Neferu in the Soulburn deck, where you get below 15, and then when she dies, she comes back to your hand. And so for me, this is a cool card for sure.
Yeah, and you know, something I haven't really seen much of, but if you think of something like Skull Scepter as a relic, you know, if you're getting frenzied and this is getting sacrificed and going back to your hand, you're dealing the damage and getting the creature back. You know, I don't think it's by any means OP, but right. I think it's a decent card.
For sure. Okay, next we have our first legendary, and I know like most of the community is familiar with this card and what it does. If you're not, this is Eva, Baroness of the Dead. So it's a 2 mana 2/3, and she has a unique text. So her afterlife ability transforms a random creature that costs 4 or less into a 1/1 zombie, and it gives it the same afterlife. So how this is usually played, I mean, this has become, I play quite a bit of board wipe death, and you know, the lists I were playing, there weren't a whole lot of the Divine Order cards in there, but this one made the list. I think this was in everyone's board wipe death list because you can play this card, kill it off, or maybe you make a trade and it dies, and then it'll transform your opponent's creatures into a 1/1 zombie. And on top of that, you've got Blood Ritual, which is a death god power. Destroy a creature with 1 health, and then you get 1 health, you get 1 healing off that. So you can just hitting the GP on these zombies, and it's going to slowly transform each of your opponent's creatures as long as they're 4 mana or less. So it's insanely strong. I mean, I haven't seen this played in too many aggro decks. I mean, I haven't really seen a whole lot of death aggro decks. People are experimenting with the corpse explosion after sacrifice thing, but we haven't seen that style of deck like take over the ladder yet. And yeah, so I'm not sure how this would work. I mean, it's some board control, but the thing is, this can also hit your creatures too. And so if you played this in an aggro deck, you just have to be careful that you didn't get that Afterlife on one of your creatures, because then that's gonna mess up your tempo, right? But
yeah, I don't think it'll see too much play in the aggro decks, but in control, it's definitely very strong. You know, I think one of the biggest strategic moves that I've seen is, you know, if you get it to transform the whole board and it's just a 1/1 on their board, you know, some, you know, domains don't always have a way of getting rid of the 1/1 on their board. So you could just kind of sit there and hold it, and they could just keep hitting you for the 1, but that's no big deal if you're playing board wipe death. And you know, until they could play something 5 mana or higher, you could just use it to hold those ransom, you know. And yeah, it's a strong card overall.
Yeah, it's a great control card. And another cool thing, since this is an Afterlife effect, you can actually trigger this with the Canopic Hoarder or the Sand Scorpion, which just gives you more, you know, you can run the train another time if you get it going. So it's a strong card. I know people were calling for this to be nerfed. I don't know. I don't think it needs to be nerfed. But
you know, I think that's, you know, with it being able to continue to be triggered off, you know, the Sand Scorpion or the Canopic is, I guess, where most people start to call it a little over the top as far as a card. You know, I've heard people say maybe adding the Soulless tag would make it fair, and you know, I could see it. I don't particularly have a problem with it generally because I play a lot more control. But I could see how, you know, playing aggro, that could be a pretty frustrating card to continue to deal with. But also, you know, I guess aggro could be frustrating to deal with for months on end. So a card like this comes out and, you know, we get to feel strong for a while.
yeah, I just don't want to see the legendaries nerfed. I mean, it's a legendary card. It's supposed to be legendary, like it's supposed to be good. And I mean, I guess this card can win you games, but I feel like there's ways to play around it. If you just kill off the zombie, then right?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely ways to play around it. You know, once you see it drop down, you just got to know to not, you know, overplay your hands. And you know, I don't think it's inherently broken, but I guess the question would be, does it single-handedly win, you know, aggro matchups or mid-range matchups, you know, by turn 3 or 4? And if the answer is yes, then I think it might need to be looked at a little bit. Because, I mean, when a 2-mana card just kind of wins those kind of games on the spot, you know, that could be concerning. But, yeah, I mean, in a control meta, I don't think it's going to be inherently OP. And I think right now it's not too bad, but also I guess you're not seeing a lot of control death until it comes weekend time. You know, even myself didn't run into too many, so you know, I've seen it be really strong, but I don't know. I don't think it's anything too crazy right now. I think there's other things we have to look at.
Yeah, and that's where I mean, they're compared to some of the other cards, like this is nothing. But it is a strong card, though, for sure.
Like you already said, that there's ways to play around it. You just gotta, play smart, and you could get past the Eva.
Yeah, just gotta be smart, guys. Come on.
Right.
All right, let's look at this next one. We're already up to 3 mana, and we've got the Barbed Fly. So it's a 3 mana 3/3. This one has a wild tag, which is kind of interesting, but it's a roar ability. It deals 1 damage to each god. If you are frenzied, deal 3 damage instead. So this was another card too that, without Soul Burn, I remember thinking of, all right, so what are going to be the ways to like do direct damage to your opponent's god, and this card gives you an opportunity to do that. I just don't know if it's that good. I mean, 3 mana 3/3 are decent stats, but you only have so many. You can only run so many cards, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, the same we talked about the Desecrated Shrine. Maybe there is a deck where you could see consistent face damage to both gods. Obviously Death has ways to recover. I don't think we have a deck right now where that's like the main goal. And I don't know if we have all the tools for it. In a world where that is, Barbed Fly will definitely be in there. I think it's a pretty cool card. 3 mana 3/3. Dealing with 3 damage to both gods too. I think as a common card as well, this will see play in a lot of free to play zoo decks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it definitely has a spot in there. But yeah, I think it's an average card. And I think in a world where, since Soulburn's gone, if there's a list where you kind of take in all the cards that are dealing damage to both gods, this will definitely be in there. And I like the card, so
I like it
definitely
too.
would like to experiment and see if we could take that in a certain direction.
Yeah, so think you've got 2 Barbed Flies, 2 Bomb Flies, Desecrated Shrine. I mean, that's quite a bit of damage right there. If you're able to get the Frenzy and do the 3 damage with the Barbed Fly. So I think it has some potential, but you just gotta figure out a way to not die to these aggro decks, right?
Right. Well, let's, and I think a card that, could synergize with a lot of the Divine Order cards in Death. It's a Genesis card, Avatar of Death. I think it'd be really cool to see some maybe mid-range Death decks come in where, if you're able to stick Avatar of Death for 1 turn, at 6 mana, like that's a lot. If you could deal 3 damage twice your face 6, but Avatar of Death has how much damage initially? 6? I mean, that's a 12 damage swing. Or like I've talked about, like before Divine Order came out, being able to play the Rotted one. If you're able to stick Avatar Death for 1 turn and then play Rotted one, that's a 16 damage swing. But we'll get to the Rotted one. But I think there is a deck that's out there for the creative minds, as far as the dealing damage to both gods and getting access to more damage because of that, or and just making sure you have the healing to get through it. But might be a little more difficult now with Word 2.0 kind of nerfing Nefaria a little bit. But
there's some setup required for sure.
But those are my favorite kind of decks. You gotta the ones that require a little bit of setup.
Yeah, same. I enjoy those as well. Let's look at this next one. We got the Cursed Hoplite, and I haven't seen this card too much. It's a 3 mana 3/1, but it has Armor 1. Afterlife, summon a 1/1 skeleton with Armor 1, and so we've got some armored death cards. Like, my only gripe with this though is it only has 1 health. So you got cards like Vanguard Axewoman. They play that for 1 mana and they can run it in. I guess you do get the 1/1 skeleton with Armor 1, but just doesn't seem that great to me.
I guess at initial look, that's the thoughts. I mean, if you think about, it's a 3/1 with Armor 1. If you add in the 1/1 with Armor 1, I know it's not particularly the way it stats out, but it's a 4/2 with 2 armor. And you gotta ask yourself, if that was the stat line, it would be pretty good. You know, the Afterlife kind of splits up that armor and health a little bit, but you know, I think kind of again with Barbed Fly, like I think this actually has a place in maybe like a zoo death. You know, you could bring it back with Half-Life to get, you know, a 3 damage swing and another, you know, 1/1 with armor. You know, it doesn't sound strong standalone, but you know, there are other synergies in the set, and I think, you know, its full potential is yet to be found within those synergies. But like I said, when you look at it as a 4/2 with 2 armor, it's actually a lot of stats there. And I think that it might work in some way, but as standalone, it's, you know, it's an average card.
Yeah, and this is a rare card too. So, you know, the design team was like, all right, this one's a rare one. We got to make it a little bit better. And so I'd like to hear what their thought process. I might have just been like overvaluing armor. I think if this had 2 health, it'd probably be really good, right?
Oh yeah, it would definitely be it would be in competition with Varrock, I guess, at that point. In fact, it would be better stat line, and instead of drawing both players a card, you know, twice, you're only getting the effect of having the 1/1 with armor. But you know, I guess if you look at other creatures in the 3 mana slot for death, I guess it falls just slightly short compared to something like maybe Cruel Overseer, or Greedbane Strider, being a 4/4.
Slightly short.
But yeah, but like I said, maybe with, you know, some more skeleton and skeleton nether zombie kind of synergies, it'd be a little better. But yeah, I guess it's just average. But for maybe a free to play zoo player, it's not a bad slot in.
All right, so we've got our first epic card, the Deathwatch Elder. So this is the 3/3 Blessed. At the start of your turn, if your god has 15 health or less, deal 3 damage to the enemy god. So it's another one of those cards that's doing direct damage. It also has a Nubian tag. So I mean, this card seems good when you read the text. The stats aren't terrible. It's got Blessed, but I'm just trying to think of how you would fit this in a deck that's being run in the meta right now, and I'm not necessarily seeing it.
Yeah, and I don't know. Being below 15 health, and having, you know, a 3/3 on board, I don't know. I don't see it surviving until the next turn with it being the amount of damage that it can do. Like, it's just going to get removed. And if you're below 15 health when you're passing turn, you definitely want to have a board state, or at least the tools to where, you know, you're in a comfortable position still. And I feel like this doesn't really solidify a comfortable position. It's a decent amount of damage, but, you know, yeah, 3 mana 3/3. I just don't see it surviving. And if you're below 15 health when you're passing turn, I don't see this being the answer. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's scary because, I mean, we know how quick these decks can go, and it's not, since it only has 3 health, it'd be, you know, if you play this before you're at 15 health, it probably just gets removed, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's getting removed either way, and when you're playing that kind of below 15 health death game, you need to have, you know, reliable and consistent ways to either balance your health or just close out the game completely. And this just doesn't seem like it's going to be it.
I mean, if it did stay on the board for whatever reason, you're doing 3 damage to the enemy god, plus like when you attack with it, it's another 3. But I don't know. I just don't see that happening, you know?
I mean, and let's just say you have 2 on board then. That's 6 and 6. That's 12 damage. I mean,
that's kind of a lot.
That's quite a bit. I mean, I would say you'd have to look into the Nubian synergies and see if, you know, if there's a way to kind of keep getting it on board, right? Whether it's through like the pallbearers and the sarcophaguses or whatever. But I think just playing it flat, it's just going to be tough to keep it sticking there on board.
For sure. Okay, this next card is a spell. It's a Mark of Death. So it's 3 mana. You get the Blessed, and then it says give each of your creatures Afterlife summon a 1/1 zombie, and we all know the 1/1 zombie. It's a Nether tribe card with Leech. So Mark of Death. Have you tried this one at all? Or?
I think I ran it like once early on, like just playing with the zombies, but I didn't really get much impact from it.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know. It's not terrible. Like the zombies, it's nice having them, but it's a 1/1. It gets removed easily.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it to the God Power, which that you could give to a creature where it's 2 mana, give a creature summon a 1/1 when they die. Like, for 3 mana, if you're getting it on 3 or more creatures, it reaches that kind of value point. Considering it also has Blessed as well. Plus the zombies have Leech, but I guess it falls into that category as like, is it worth running a full card for it?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Yeah, the answer is probably no.
Unless you could get some crazy back-to-back corpse explosion, where you have a full board, it gets marked of death, it somehow lives to the next turn, and you could like corpse explosion and pip corpse explosion again or something like that. But that's a fairy tale world, and there's more consistent ways to get to that point. And yeah, it's just not the answer.
It's an ambitious card. For sure, but I think this one's gonna be a pass for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's a good one. How do you say this? The Miasmic Forge.
Miasmic Forge. Yeah, I think that's it.
So this is a structure. It's got backline. It cannot attack, but whenever you summon a creature, give it +1 armor, and at the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to your god. So this is just. It's giving armor to your creatures at the expense of taking 2 damage each turn, which I don't know. Now that I read it, it doesn't seem that great.
Dude,
but
a hot take. I think this card's underrated.
Yeah.
I think that this can see value. I don't just being able to give 1 armor to anything that's summoned, right? So, I mean, 1/1s aside. If you're playing like some sort of tempo nether, with like some of the other armor cards, like just being able to get 1 armor on, maybe 3 or 4 creatures and continuously do that, I think can't be overlooked.
Right.
Only at the cost of 2 damage to your god. I mean, if you're getting a few things on board, that 2 damage doesn't matter as much because, well, you have a board, right? So they either need to contest board, if they want to take advantage of the fact that you're taking face damage. I've seen boards, right, with the zombie death where with like the Nether Swarm Lord, and the 1/1s, you're getting these wide boards and it's getting buffed by Nether Swarm. In these decks, generally they're playing like Nepharaoh's Will or Corpse Explosion, but if you kind of take those out and you look for a different win con, and your win con is getting a big board that you heal with, that just continues to get bigger through like Nether Swarm Lord, and you have this 1 armor, it's going to help you achieve those big boards.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think this is overlooked a little bit. Maybe it hasn't found its consistency. Something to keep in mind, 0 damage means this could be your Kopesh, right? Bring this out every time with Kopesh and continue to give 1 armor to anything you summon. It's something that I would like to experiment with more.
Yeah, I mean, armor is good, right? Armor is good, and Death does have some overstated creatures. Usually they're played at the expense of taking damage. Like you were saying earlier, Death does have ways to heal and come back from being damaged. And I could see playing this and your opponent's like, oh, well, this thing is going to do 2 damage to their god each turn. Like, I don't want to kill that. I'm going to do 2 extra damage, and it could end up being their downfall if it means you're getting armor on all of your big creatures,
Either all of your big creatures, or if you do get a wide board of 1/1s with 1 armor and you get that Nether Swarm Lord down, like that's a win more card. It's going to give 1/1 to all your Nethers on board. if those are all those 1/1s, they have leech. Now they have 1 armor. You know, like I said, I don't think it's amazing up front, but I think I think it should see some play. I think there's a deck out there where it's going to do pretty decent. Also, you know, like it's not to jump ahead to something like, you know, Pan Forge Master on top of that. Now I think that's a card that's obviously poorly statted. It gives 1 armor to all your nethers, but if you already have 1 armor on a decent amount of your board and you play something like that, 2 armor is a lot. It can be hard to deal with.
It really is.
Maybe that's the Pan Forge Master dream coming alive.
Okay, then. Definitely some potential there. Let's take a look at this next card. So this is one that I've tried out. It's a Mutual Hatred. So it's a destroy a creature that costs 4 or less mana, but then you take its health and damage. I know I tried this in some of the control decks. It seemed pretty good because a lot of, I mean, people are playing a lot of aggro decks right now. So like, they're playing a lot of cards that are 4 mana or less. So that's stuff like you could kill a Bronze Gate with this. I mean, you're gonna take 4 damage from destroying it, but you could kill a Bronze Gate. You could kill the Thunder Caller with this. It's a good flex card. I don't know if you would run this in an aggro deck, maybe, because you are taking extra damage. But I felt this was good. It's a good tech to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's just straight removal. I guess you can never really go wrong with straight removal. I mean, if you compare it to something like Dreaming Scepter, which is 3 mana that destroys a creature and you take its health, its damage, but that's the lowest health on board. This one, you have a little more flexibility. Yeah, I think it's a good card, especially, you know, in the aggro meta. You know, or say a warrior swings an Archangel Bruiser into a 2 damage creature. I mean, you only take 1 damage to remove it. You know, in a world like that, yeah, it's definitely pretty good. Or if you're playing a more ambitious death deck and you need to fuel up a Ataraxia, this will definitely help get you there.
Yeah, and it is destroy too, so it will go through protected as well. So
yeah,
I like this card. I think it's pretty good. It's not seeing a whole lot of play right now, but definitely has potential.
Yeah, I give it a 1 thumb up. It's gonna see play. It's removal, so it's got a place
for sure. Okay, next we have the Necroreceptor. So this was one I actually bought 2 of these today so I could experiment with this, because I know Alamir was telling me, oh, the Necroreceptor, it's so good, it's so good.
And it's a fun card. It's a really fun card.
It does seem fun. So what this card does, it's a relic, and at the end of your turn, you obliterate 2 random creatures in your void, and you summon a 1/1 zombie. But if you're frenzied, you summon an additional zombie, and you just get zombies. You just get like never-ending zombies as long as it doesn't get removed. Right. I know for a while with the war meta, we were seeing everyone was running relic removal to get rid of the enduring shield or whatever. But ever since the shield changes, people aren't running relic removal. Like aggro decks, I don't see it as much. Even some control players aren't running relic removal, which I think is a mistake. You know, they also nerfed the Necroreceptor too, so that was more of a reason people, oh, we don't need to run Iron Tooth Goblin anymore. But this card right here, it makes me want to run relic removal, because they just, if your opponent just keeps getting zombies each turn, it's like, it just feels bad, because you're like, you can try to kill them off, but then the next turn they just get more of them, and it just spirals out of control. These zombies, they're the Nether tribe, so they can use Corpse Explosion to blow these up and do a bunch of damage to your face.
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was gonna say, you know, I've played with this a decent bit. I've versed it a fair amount as well. You know, weapon removal, of course, is nice, but really with this card, if you could just stay ahead on board, it kind of shuts it down. The deck has some answers, but Yeah, if you could just get a board, you kind of shut it down. Now it can spiral out of control though, and then turn into, swinging, four or five creatures to face, and then playing Nephara's Will, or a Corpse Explosion, and it makes for some really fun combos. I think it is a good card. I don't think it's particularly a reason to say that relic removal needs to come back in. I don't think relic removal is as important as it was before. It's definitely annoying to see this thing stick, but if you can get ahead of it on board, or get ahead of this deck on board, the Necroreceptor does kind of get shut down. So, but it is a fantastic card. I've played I've got a list for you actually now that
I know
you have
do.
some Necroreceptors, I got some fun stuff for you. It's a really fun deck, but I don't think it's anything to be haunted by until. If a lot of the aggro decks do start to fall out of the meta, that's where you have control and combo, and if you can't get ahead of this, or if you just don't have the answers to stop it, it'll definitely surprise you.
Yeah, it's a surprise, and as a control player, it's just I don't want to have to deal with never-ending creatures spawning and getting buffed up or exploding on me. So it's just something to keep in mind.
For sure.
I think this card's good, but it does only have one durability, and the Sanctum is a thing. We see things like Wiccan Trapper in the Sanctum. That would remove this. Bronze Servant. So I mean, there's ways to deal with it. But yeah, let's keep on moving. We've got Outnumber the Living here. I know I ran this a little bit on the PTR, so. It's summon a 1/1 zombie for each enemy creature. If you are frenzied, summon 2 for each instead. So it's another way to get zombies in. Like the Divine Order expansion, we've seen there's quite a few cards that do this, like give you a way to get these zombies. And I don't think it's terrible, but it's like, these are 1/1s, so your opponent can deal with them easily.
When I was starting to play the Necroreceptor decks, it does feel bad when you fall behind and you can't really get the zombies out. I tried running like one of these as like a catch-up mechanic, like, hey, I'm falling behind. This will maybe help me start proccing that frenzied so I can get it consistently. It's not really the answer. It's yeah. If you're able to combo at the same turn with like something like Corpse Explosion or Nephara's Will, but yeah, if you're falling behind playing a zombies deck like this,
it's tough.
I guess you need something else. Just filling back up with 1/1s. If they were able to shut it down up to this point, they're probably gonna do it again. So.
Yeah, I just don't think the 1/1s are enough. If you're behind on board, like these 1/1s, they're probably not gonna be enough to take it back. So.
Yeah, that's what I ended up experiencing. So, with you on that.
Okay. So this next one, so we had talked about this quite a bit during the PTR. This next one, it's Pull the Strings. So you deal 5 damage to your god, but then you pull a creature with cost 5 or less from either void onto your side of the board, and I believe you get to pick the creature, right?
Do you? I don't see pull a creature.
Pretty sure you do.
I don't. If you do, then I guess I kind of misinterpreted that. So like, I don't remember playing it in PT. I remember talking about it. But I guess if you get to choose, that definitely opens up some new lines of play for, well, what we talked about, which was things like the Rotted One. That definitely changes things. I was thinking about this before the video, and I was like, if this is just pulling from either one of them, I think it kind of it makes it hard to play, probably unplayable. But I mean, if you get to choose, then you could definitely curate some sort of casino decks, or just heavy nether decks where, I think we should all examine this card maybe a second time.
I think it's good, and I think
it's great.
It's a 3-mana card, but you can pull a creature that's 5 mana from a void. So I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do with this too, and it doesn't give it Soulless either. I mean, you could do you could pull a Siren with this to get another sleep. You could pull a statted creature. You could pull something that buffs your board or does.
Right. I see casino. This got casino written all over it with rotted. You find a way to get that rotted one in there and pull it out on turn 3. If you could flip that onto your board on turn 1 or 2 and then pull out turn 3, that's GG.
Yeah, this card, what it is, it's like a raised dead. It's like a lower mana raised dead, you know?
I like that.
Yeah, so I like this card. I mean, it has potential, like, I don't know if I would just throw this in any deck, but you could do some cool stuff with this card for sure.
It's combo oriented, for sure. It's got to be in the right deck. I don't think it's particularly like S++, but you know, this is another one where I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board with it. You know, I think there's at least something there, and Casino Death is just fun.
For sure. All right, next we've got this. This has to be one of everyone's favorite death cards, the Decaying Rhino. So it's a 6/6 Nether, but it does have a downside. At the end of your turn, unless you are frenzied, this creature takes 1 damage. It's 4 mana, 6/6 for 4 mana. So, you know, a 4 mana, even if you don't have frenzied, you still get a 6/5. Like, that's just insane value stat wise, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it, there's I don't remember the name of it right now, but there's a 4 mana 6/5 Nether that deals 5 damage to your god. And you know, of course, there's times maybe where you want to take that 5 damage. But if you compare it just directly to this without thinking about that aspect, I mean, even if you don't have the frenzied, it's a 4 mana 6/5 and you're not taking 5 damage.
Right.
So
Crimson
that's a win
Oni.
in my book. Yeah, Crimson Oni, yeah. So those are definitely the cards you want to compare side by side when looking at this. And I'd say this one definitely, for the most part, comes out on top. Unless you have a specific reason you want to take damage. It's a great card, and everybody knew that right up front, and that's why it's already seeing a lot of play.
Yeah, I mean, just insane stats. I think the card itself doesn't have a downside, but it's the domain, because I don't know. I feel like death is lacking like tempo tools, like in comparison to the domain, in comparison to war, nature, light. They all have so many cards like creatures and relics that they can play early on to help establish board, and I think death is kind of lacking that. I mean, they've got some, you know, there's Blight Bomb, there's other removal, but creature wise they don't really have too many insane creatures. I guess they do with like Greed Bane Strider, but they all like do damage to you and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of creatures and I guess other domains, I guess what you're looking for is like when you play them, they immediately do something beneficial, whether it's Underbrush War, swinging into something, or with Warrior, equipping a relic, or, you know, you have the Blitz, so you're able to trade in. A lot of times with Death, yeah, you have these high stated minions, but what the general trade-off is you're just taking face damage. You know, I think, you know, maybe this is where the Miasmic Forge maybe sees some play, or, you know, I don't know, cheating out big minions and then just trading your way in is the play. You know, it's definitely something I think is there. There's tools to make it happen. You just got to make sure you keep your health in check.
For sure, for sure. Okay. So next we have Harrowing Visions. This is a 4 mana. So 4 mana, draw 2 cards. If you're frenzied, draw 3 instead. So, and I know that drawing 3 cards for 4 mana is good value, but I don't know. 4 mana is quite a bit of mana.
Yeah. So I actually thought about this for just a little bit longer than initially saying, yeah, it's garbage, let's just move on. If you think about some of the, I guess, the more free-to-play zoo decks where you end up dumping your hand really quickly, and you have this board, but then you're just top decking 1 or 2 manas. I mean, maybe it could see a little bit of play in there. especially you have the one cost Nether, the 3/3 that discards a card from your hand. It's a good stats to have a 1 mana 3/3. And I see it get ran sometimes in these free to play zoos. Something like Harrowing Visions could be what helps you, get the value to stay in the game. But for the most part, when you're in the higher tiers of gameplay and decks, it's just not gonna cut it.
Yeah, to me it seems slow for a aggro tempo style deck, and then in a control deck it would be good, but Death already has so many good cards for drawing more cards. You've got the Burrowing Scarab or whatever that one is, V-Rock. So I don't know, maybe you could try running this in place of one of those, but those cards also have Afterlife, so you can trigger them with the Canopic Hoarder and Sand Scorpion.
Or with the Varrock, it's got the very good Half-Life synergy.
Yeah, he's got the Half-Life synergy. So I don't know about this one. It doesn't seem terrible, but
it's gonna fall short.
I think there's better cards to run.
Definitely.
Okay, next we got the Inexorable Raider. 4 mana, 5/2 Viking. It's a Viking actually. This one's got Blessed and Afterlife summon a 1/1 zombie. And I think there's another 4 mana card that's kind of similar to this. But so 4 mana, you get 5 attack. I just feel like you would run Decaying Rhino over this.
Yeah, it's minimal synergies, easily killed. Yeah, I just doesn't really have a place in any death deck right now. So it's a filler card for sure.
It's another example of, I think what it is the development team, or I think they like overestimated the value of Blessed, and it's not that great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, it's definitely not great. And I think something else that it does do, cards like this, it fills up pools of like other things, right? So like when you play Odin's Raven, right, you have a chance of pulling a Viking. It's even though this is like a death card and it doesn't really have any particular place in death, you have ways to obtain it in other domains and stuff like that. It's a filler card, like I said. And Blessed is definitely not strong enough to consider running this solely for that reason.
That's interesting. Okay, this next one, Mass Raise. It is a 4 mana spell. Summon 3 1/1 zombies. If you are frenzied, summon 5 instead. So it's kind of similar to that Outnumber the Living card, but this one doesn't have the prerequisite of your opponent needing to have creatures out. You could just play this, get the zombies. If you're frenzied, you get 2 extra. And it doesn't seem that bad. I guess for 4 mana, you could get 10 stats. But they're 1/1s though.
Yeah, if you think of it as like a 4 mana 5/5, if you're frenzied, in the
Still
zombie
not as
deck,
good as the Rhino then.
Yeah, no, it's not. And just the zombie decks that I've seen and have played with so far, it just has more consistent ways of getting there. Mass Raise it just doesn't seem like the play.
Doesn't seem like the play. I think for 4 mana, you probably want to be playing something different.
Yeah, I think maybe at 3 mana, it might be kind of cool to have that just instant board fill. But 4 mana, by the time you're hitting 4 mana, you already have your Necroreceptor out. 4 mana, you want to maybe play that Decaying Rhino. There's just better things.
And think about this too. Think about this. So nature has Blade Fly. 4 mana, you get 3 2/2s. Now they do have Confused, but
and the wild synergies with Wildfire and stuff like that.
I feel like that's even better than this. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
But I guess it's a quick way to get nethers on the board, which could come in handy with could set up some other combos, but I don't know. I feel like there's better cards to run than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of talked about this one briefly earlier. This next card, it's the Pan Forge Master. So let's just ignore the stats.
It's abysmal. It's abysmal at first look, or even at second look. It's just there's a dream where you have a full board of 1 armored nethers. You play this, now they all have 2 armor. But then the enemy plays Apocalypse Now, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. This for 4 mana, this does not seem like a 4 mana card, but I could be underestimating the value of armor. But what are you gonna do with this? You play this for 4 mana. You know, let's say you are at 6 mana. You can play 1 or 2 creatures, give them 1 armor. 'Cause this is just gonna get removed, right? It's got 1 health.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this creature is. I mean, it's really only there for its roar. And I have yet to even see the perfect world in which it gives everything, that additional armor, or maybe even 1 armor. But if you have a bunch of beefy nethers on board and they were all able to get 1 or 2 armor, I think it'd be pretty strong. But yeah, I mean, this card is abysmal. It can't deny that. I would just have to. I don't know. I just hope to see the dream world where, being able to give 1 armor to all your nethers is a lot. But I guess if you compare it to the war card at 2 mana, give every creature on the board 1 armor. And it doesn't have the 2/1 stat line for 2 mana. And it doesn't have to be nethers. So actually, if you think of that, then I guess war just has a way better version of this.
Yeah.
Now that I'm saying it all out loud.
Yeah, I mean, it's I like what they're trying to do, but I don't know. 4 mana just seems way too high.
Who knows? Maybe it'll see some buffs.
Maybe. I think that'd be cool. Okay, this next one, we've got the Talisman, and there's been 1 of these for each god. The other ones have not been that great. So this is 4 mana, Plague Talisman. After you damage a creature with this relic, if the creature survives, transform it into a 1/1 zombie. And it's got 1 attack. So pretty much this is always going to turn it into a zombie.
Yeah.
But you're taking face damage. I don't know. This doesn't seem good to me.
I mean, does it go through ward? No. Right?
No. I don't think it does.
Yeah, because transform, it blocks 1 transform, right? So
yeah.
It's not particularly an answer for Poly. I guess any other creature you'd want to transform on the spot, you probably don't want to get hit in the face by. And well, for this you have to swing into it. So
and it's slow too. It doesn't have blitz, so you have to spend 4 mana and wait a turn. Yeah.
I don't know. This ain't cutting it in my book either.
See, now if they made these, and this goes for almost all the talismans, the trade-off, it just doesn't seem worth it, and they're all like high mana too. If they had made this like a 2 mana card, it might be playable.
Actually, yeah, because then you would be swinging it into war creatures that have another round on it, because you're able to set this up on turn 2. By the time they hit that 4 mana another round, you get to swing this in, or they'll think twice about playing another round.
Yeah, I think if anyone on the development team is watching this, maybe you should consider lowering these talismans down, because I don't know if anyone is playing these. I don't know if they were meant to be just filler cards that no one plays, but 2 or 3 mana they might see play as tech, but
yeah, I think 2 mana this would actually be a pretty decent card now that you say, even with the setup, now that if you compare it, I guess, to, well, it would definitely be stronger than Enduring Shield, because you could transform a protected minion, and Enduring Shield, I guess, is still a fair card. So I think at 2 mana this would actually be playable.
Yeah, I think it would be fair, maybe good, but 4 mana this is a pass.
Hell, honestly, at 2 mana, I think it's kind of OP, because if you got to think 2 mana, if you set this up on 2 mana, they can't safely play, a Bronze Gate. They cannot another round a target. At 3 mana, you have that kind of that space where if you're going like second, they could probably, still get off a pretty good play before you could swing it. But if you're going first and you set this up before they play a Bronze Gate or another round, then they just can't do that unless, they know when they want to trade that off. So I think at 2 mana, it might even be considered pretty strong.
Yeah.
Maybe OP. I don't know. 3 mana is, I think, kind of that sweet spot where it could see some good plays, and then there's going to be times where it's just not fast enough. So I don't know.
Yeah, something to think about for sure. Okay, next we've got Voracious Fiend. This is a 4/2 Nether with Leech, and Afterlife summon a 1/1 zombie with Leech. And I know the boy Clutch was experimenting with this. I'd have to ask him again what he thought, but I mean, any, a 4 mana card with Leech, that gives you a shot at like getting some heals off. I mean, likely this is only gonna be able to trade one creature. I guess if you're able to go face with this a couple times, you'd be healing a ton. But the fact that this only has 2 health, any creature with 2 health, it seems like it always gets removed. Whether it's Axewoman, well, I guess Axewoman just dies when they run into something. But V-Rock, they changed that from 3 health to 2 health a while ago, and it just gets removed like instantly. But
yeah,
you do get to heal a little bit, because if they run a creature into it, I mean, you're healing a little bit, and then you get a 1/1 zombie to potentially heal some more. So I'd say this card is like, I don't know, it just seems average to me.
Yeah, it's better than the Raider, definitely.
Yeah.
Death is a class that takes a lot of damage, so heal is pretty highly valued. If you're lucky enough to have this stick going into turn 5, and you have something like Nether Swarmlord, it does kind of, it goes up to a 5/3. That's pretty hopeful. It's definitely by no means a staple auto include, but I think maybe if you're playing a type of death deck that can get board control, and if you're able to have this trade into something instead of it being traded into, not terrible, but yeah, overall it's an average card. But healing is something that's always being looked for in death, so I think because of that, it's gonna occasionally see play.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Next, we've got Corpse Explosion. So this is a fun card.
Yes.
All right, we're at 5 mana now. So we're looking at, this is going to be more top end for aggro decks. So this one, destroy your Nether creatures. Deal 1 damage to the enemy god for each Nether destroyed, and if you are frenzied, deal 3 for each instead. So now, I think, how you want to play this. If you had 6 Nethers on the board, and you go face with them, then you play this, destroy them all, and that's like 18 damage just from the Corpse Explosion. I mean, that's insane. But the problem is, like, you gotta set that up. You gotta set that up to have the Nether creatures on the board, which I think is tricky to do. But I think this card has mad potential, and I think you've experimented with this one a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I've found more consistency with New Pharaoh's Will, but occasionally you get into these situations where if they have like a Bronze Gate down and you don't have a way of removing it, you can't comfortably like swing everything in, and then New Pharaoh's Will, you kind of just have to Neff's Will. So I started running like 1 Neff's Will and 1 of these, and you kind of have 1 for each given situation, and it's definitely a lot of fun. If you have a super good opener, it's not super hard to set up either. It's definitely just a straight up good card, especially if you are able to swing everything in first and then play it. It's definitely just a good finisher for that deck. but I think in combination with like having other options, because it by itself, if it doesn't kill the target, then you have no board. And getting board back in this deck can be kind of tough. You kind of have to get ahead and stay ahead. So this has got to be a finisher.
Right.
I mean, unless you make it to a high enough mana to combo it with something like a Mass Razor and Outnumber, which if you're getting to that mana anyway, you're probably having troubles with the deck. You kind of want to get to that 5-6 mana and close it out. I think this is more of a one of in a deck, but yeah, no, it's definitely a good card and a fun card as well. So
Cool. Okay, now we've got the Cursed Obelisks, and I think they changed this one recently. I can't remember what they did to change it, but it's a 5-mana structure. It's 1/4, but it can attack. It's got backline, and at the end of your turn, if you are frenzied, summon a 1/1 zombie.
this is hot garbage.
It's garbage.
Hot garbage.
Yeah,
A 1/4 that you have to be frenzied just to get 1/1. I took one look at this and I said that is just not worth it ever.
Yeah, what did they change about this? Did it? I feel like
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem good at all. For 5 mana too. Oh my god.
Right, it's literally doing nothing unless you're frenzied, and you have to spend 5 mana to just get it on. Like the Necroreceptor is just better. It's summoning a 1/1 no matter what, and if you're frenzied, you get the second one. Yeah, I don't know in what world that Cursed Obelisk makes it into any deck. I think this definitely has to see some buffs, so it's not a meme card. I don't think in the rare slot and these like newer sets they're gonna put out, they should have cards that literally are unplayable. And this just shows no. I don't see any situation where this is good. I mean, if you're running a structure like Synergy, like heavy deck, even like if you even want a Fortified Acropolis and you just need the extra structures, like even a 5-mana 1/4 backline is just gonna die. Like this has to see some buffs if it's ever gonna see it inside of a deck.
Yeah, I agree. It's just and for 5, I don't know. Even for like, dude, even for like 3 mana, I don't know if this is.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess it might be like more on par with the Necroreceptor.
Yeah, I mean, it's at 3 mana, it might even be okay just because it's a 1/4 and it might survive till the next turn. But I think maybe even I think not only would it have to go down to 3 mana, but when you're frenzied, it would have to summon more than 1/1. 2 1/1s at least.
Yeah,
summoning 1/1, it's just that's just rough.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so here's a good one right here. The Nether Swarm Lord. It's a 5-mana 3/5 Nether, but I think why this card is good is the text. It says, at the end of your turn, give +1/+1 to each other friendly Nether. If you are frenzied, you also draw a card. So obviously the Nether synergy. I mean, we've seen a lot of these cards tonight have been Nether, part of the Nether tribe, and so this is just gonna buffs them up. If you're frenzied, you draw a card. It seems good. Seems like a good card to me.
Oh yeah, no. This is in the these zombie decks that we're starting to see more of, and the ones that I've been running. This is definitely include. I think at first I was running 2, and then I dropped down to 1, and then I went back to 2. Just because, it is just a good card. It gives you that draw. If you have like 2 or 3 1/1s on board and you're able to buff them, they all have leech too. So when you give them all +1/+1, you're getting that extra healing. This is just a good card. It's a win more card. Meaning if you get this to stick 1 or 2 turns, you're definitely looking down the road to finish the game.
Yeah, and I like that it's 5 health. It's a good amount of health. It can't be killed. Like, it's not just gonna get taken out by a Star Shard bolt or something. It seems good.
Yep, it's definitely a solid card in my opinion.
Okay, so here's another special one. I know this was one of your favorites. We've got the Rotted one. So this card, another 5 mana. This is an 8/8 for 5 mana. And it's a dragon. But here's the catch, right? So all these death cards have a catch. It's Roar if you have less than 20 cards in your hand and void combined, deal 10 damage to your god, which is quite a bit.
You know, when I first started playing these zombie decks too, you know, I was like, oh wow, you get these zombies so fast that you actually wouldn't, you know, deal that 10 damage very consistently. But then I realized the Necroreceptor, which is your most consistent source, is it's obliterating cards out of your void. So it's kind of anti-synergy with, you know, at least the Roar there. Maybe this is where some of those other cards that make zombies come into play that aren't Necroreceptor, so that you're not taking that damage, or you know, you embrace the damage like I talked about a little bit earlier. Use it to get to that fast ataraxia, which I know sounds crazy, but if you could do that consistently and then maybe play a Death Unborn to go back to 20, that's something I did a little bit on PTR. It was a little out there, but you know, I've made it work at least a few times. Or like, not too far-fetched, if Avatar Death sticks for even one turn and you play this next turn and deal 10 damage to yourself, that adds 10 damage to Avatar Death. That's a huge swing. And then yeah, with Pull the Strings, like, you know, that's something I'm gonna have to look at again. I mean, this is just a fun card because it's a 5 mana 8/8, and Death has ways of cheating things out and manipulating voids and such, and just even getting the health back. So even though we're not seeing a ton of this right now, I think it's not too long until maybe one of those mythic mines unlocks a deck where you can see this a lot more, and you know, I'll be in that race.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we love this. We love this card. It's cool, and these are the kind of cards we like to see here, because it's forcing the players, like, because you don't want to necessarily take the 10 damage. You're forcing the players to come up with a creative way to make this work somehow, and like those are the kind of cards that I like to see. Moving on. We've got Triage Necromancer, and I know we talked about this briefly. This is a legendary card. It's a 5 mana 5/5, a Nubian, and at the end, it says at the end of your turn, if you are frenzied, pull a random 1 mana creature from either void onto your side of the board. And I haven't seen this played too much, but I think this has a lot of potential. I think a lot of people would agree with me. You're just generating value each turn that this is on the board. You're going to be generating value. I mean, there's a lot of really good 1 mana creatures in this game. You've got things like Marshwalker. You've got things like Siren. Maybe this pulls a Siren and you can sleep.
Blood Boil.
Yeah, Blood Boil Outlaw. Yeah, I think the only downside, I mean, 5/5 for 5 mana isn't that terrible either, but yeah, it's not crazy stats. So I mean, I feel like you play this and your opponent's gonna probably try to remove it, but it's not necessarily easy to remove either.
I mean, I think too, if you could you know, maybe in a zoo deck, if you could also come up with your only 1-drops being pretty high value, and maybe they only have 1 or 2, you could get more out of this. The fact it pulls from both voids muddies up the ability to make a consistent combo. But you know, even a world where, you know, those Desecrated Shrines come into play and we could start pulling those with Triage, I mean, that's just really cool. You know, I talked about Blood Boils. Let's see, I don't know. If I look at 1 mana creatures, I mean, even the combo I made for the GU competition thing, I guess I misread it when I first did it, because I thought it was only your void. But you know, I kind of had a combo where you keep pulling out bomb flies and then you have a Cerebrus kind of just keep killing it, cycling it. But you know, because it doesn't give the 1/1 or the 1 mana creature Soulless, so it can continue to come out. Obviously I misread it when I submitted that. So, but yeah, there's a lot of strong 1 mana creatures to where this card's pretty consistent. Even if it's not a singular combo you're getting every time, if you're able to pull out, like you talked about, a Siren, or if you're against War and you pull out their Blood Boil, if you have board, now they have to deal with the Blood Boil. How's that feel, War? You
Yeah,
know?
show those were. Yeah, I mean this card just seems good. I don't know why this isn't being played more. I guess just because people would rather play things like War or Deception or whatever. But
Yeah.
it seems good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think, in a maybe a mid range, or maybe even close to aggro. It's just this not really much of a control card because in control you're not wanting to pull back 1/1s. You got other goals in mind.
Yeah.
But I definitely think this can start to see more play. Maybe even in future expansions or once we see the meta move around a little bit. I think it's a cool card, and I've played it in a few decks just because.
This does have a Nubian tag too, which I feel like there hasn't really been a truly good Nubian deck, but if any domain had that, it'd be Death, and I think we're getting closer because there's a lot of cards that are like have like a Nubian specific effects, and
Nubians have the ability to surprise and have so many synergies. It's hard to see everything. I think Nubians have some of the most intricate synergies, and something that's yet to be too crazy has been unlocked. But having the Nubian synergy is definitely not to be overlooked. I will say that.
For sure. All right, and this next card, it's another legendary. I mean, you guys have seen this. This was the first card that was previewed of the Divine Order set. It's the Arch of Amenmose. We're at 6 mana now, so this is a 3/7 structure. We've got some healthy stats on the thing. It's backline. After a friendly non-zombie creature dies, summon a 1/1 zombie, and then its roar and ability summon 3 1/1 zombies. So this is just a value generator. Since it has backline, I mean, you're always going to be summoning zombies, making it harder for your opponent to reach. I think it's a strong card. It's a great card, but it's probably just too slow right now in the current meta, being at 6 mana.
Yeah, I mean, so I was kind of slotted into some of the zombie decks. Some of the times I didn't. By 6 mana, you're hoping to at least close out the game, but if not, this is honestly one of the few ways to get back in it. And for that alone, I think it is worth putting in. And it's just a cool card. It's a solid card. If for any reason you do fall behind, there's not a ton of ways to get back in. It's definitely one of them. So I'm all for it. I like it.
Yeah, just keep hitting them with zombies, and the whole time you're healing back up too.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a cool card. I just feel like it might be too late, and then at 6 mana, then you're getting closer to 7, and we all know control decks. Once they get to 7, they pretty much win the game. But
true.
These zombies, again, they're nether. We've got some synergies there, so maybe this is something like you get the zombies and then try to buff them up somehow. I think it's a great card and has a ton of potential.
Yeah, even if it's one of those things too where, I don't know, if you're able to get it on board, and if next turn, you use the ability to get, 3 zombies, and you're somehow able to get frenzied, that's, with Corpse Explosion, it's 9 damage. Maybe it's just getting that little bit more. Sometimes it's a tall order, but the ability and the roar to be able to summon 3 zombies, it's a heavy body on its own. Sometimes that extra turn is all you need to make that big swing, especially when you have a card like Corpse Explosion existing.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. It's probably worth running.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it'll take more experimenting, but I've slotted it in, and I've quite enjoyed it. So.
Oh, that's good to hear. All right. On to 7 mana. We've got the Overseer of Vitality. It's another Nether card. This one's a 5/5. It's Roar effect. Give -2 health to each enemy creature and +2 strength to each of your other creatures. And if you guys watch my channel, you might have heard me say this about the 7 mana cards. So whenever I see a 7 mana card, I'm usually comparing it to Demogorgon. Typically I'll compare it to Demogorgon because that's what you're running in most control decks, or I like to compare stuff to the Charging Oryx, which is the welcome set nature card. And this one, it's just not doing it for me. I mean, 7 mana is just way too steep, dude. So I can play this, a 5/5 Nether, give -2 health to my opponent's creatures, or I could play something like an APOC and wipe the board. And you know, I feel like there's just better 7 mana cards to run. I mean, this does kind of buff your creatures, but I feel like at 7 mana, it's just way too late, right?
Yeah, I mean, if at 7 mana, and if you already have the board to utilize this, there's just other ways to close it out. Like Overseer Vitality, it's disguised as like it's like some sort of win con card where you play this and now you have enough reach, but like realistically, this doesn't give you the reach or the ability to come back if played. It's just it's just understated when compared to things like, you know, Demogorgon, Ashen Drake, you know, your other strong 7 mana drops. So yeah, you kind of, you know, hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah,
it's not there.
There's just a lot of cards like that too, and in all the sets. So
I think it might be cool at 6 mana. You know, at 6 mana, this might be actually kind of cool because if you curve it out, you know, with Nether Swarm, say you have a few zombies on the board, and then on turn 6 you play this. You know, 2 damage to all those might be kind of cool, but yeah, at 7 it's far too late. You want to have your win cons lined up, or, you know, another way to get back on board. The -2 health is just not going to cut it for getting back on board, and the +2 strength, you better be winning already. Like, that's not going to be what closes it.
Right. At 6 mana, this card would probably be crazy. It'd be like a better Asterius.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, shit. Yeah, it gives 2 mana to everything, no matter what, and takes 2 health. Like, it would be really cool at 6 mana, and I don't know if it'd be maybe broken, but it would definitely be cool to see.
It might be too strong.
You think so? Yeah, 6 mana.
If they adjusted this though, they could adjust this card to be 6 mana and, like, you know.
What if it's just +1 strength and then -2 health, and then it stays a 5/5?
See, that seems balanced to me. I think
maybe
people would probably run it too.
Yeah, because you go Decaying Rhino turn 4, turn 5, Nether Swarm, and then maybe you get to pip that out on 6, or you have another turn there where maybe you do something else. Who knows? Maybe you play your Pan Forge Master. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
at
7 minutes. It's no.
All right, we got 2 more cards to go over. The first one is the last legendary. So we got Tat Cat, the Forgotten.
This is Clutch's favorite legendary.
Yeah, he says it looks good in Diamond too. So this
I've heard.
This is a 7 mana 2/5 in Nubian, and it's got backline and ability. Pull the strongest creature from your void onto the board. If it's a Nubian, give it Deadly, Blitz, and Soulless. And I look at this card and I think, I mean, the ability seems good. This has backline, obviously the Nubian synergy, but again at 7 mana, it's like, I don't know, dude. At 7 mana,
I've heard the argument where if the ability was also a roar, kind of like the arc, that this would definitely see play, and I think that's agreeable. Um, I think without that, it's definitely hard to see it living 7 mana 2/5. You know, I've kind of see this card, and I think, okay, maybe this has a place in a casino deck. You know, but that's really the only place I see it fitting right now. I'd love to see a card like this work. It kind of reminds me of the there's a 6 mana Genesis legendary. I'm trying to remember. It's Dread Queen, where
Dread Queen Persephone.
Yeah, and that's 1 mana cheaper, and it's something that happens at the start of every turn. It summons the highest damage thing from your void. So, just in comparison to that, well, there really isn't much of a comparison. I mean, I guess this, if it's an Anubian, gives it Deadly Blitz and Soulless, which is cool, but you wouldn't want to do that with every creature. You wouldn't want to give them all Soulless, Deadly, and Blitz. If you're able to keep pulling like a rotted one out, that would be super awesome. But it just, yeah, it doesn't have the tools to stay on board and be consistent right now. But you know, I think there's a casino deck where you could maybe make it work from time to time. But yeah.
And it's, so you play this and you have to wait a turn. I mean, that's kind of like the issue. If it did do this off the roar, I don't even think it'd probably be good. You know, it'd be good in a mid range, and I'd like to see more mid range decks. I mean, especially in this meta, because there's not a whole lot of them that are viable, and it's always the same thing, nature. But this is like, I don't know. I would like to see this card good. And this is a card too. If I get this off of Jason, I'm ecstatic, because I could play this later in the game and just pull stuff from my void. Like, that's awesome. But I think it's just too slow right now. And like with 5 health, I mean, it's got the backline, but at 7 mana, like, this is gonna get removed at that point in the game.
Yeah, on average. But if it just had that roar, I think it would be. I don't think it would be overpowered if it was a roar and an ability. I think it wouldn't be that overpowered, and I think it'd be quite cool.
I don't think it would either. And you look at the other 7 mana cards, like Giant Pangolin. That's 7 mana, and that's got Blitz. You play that right away, and you can Blitz into something. Well, this 7 mana, and if it had the roar ability, it'd be similar to that, because if you had a Nubian in, you'd be pulling it out, giving it Deadly Blitz. Like, it'd be really good. And this card is supposed to be, it's a legendary card. It's supposed to be legendary. It's supposed to be really good. So I really like that proposed chain.
And it's a 7 mana legendary. You know, it's not just like a 5 or 4 mana. Like 7 mana legendary is also when you want to start seeing those kind of crazy effects.
Yeah, 7 mana is when in control decks, that's where the power comes online. And so I think it would fit this card nicely.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a look at the last one. I already know what I'm going to say about it. The Plague, 8 mana, transform each creature into a 1/1 zombie. If you are frenzied, transform just the enemy creatures instead. This card, I don't think I would ever run, just because I think End Times is just better. End Times is from the core set. It just seems better. I guess you could argue, like, if you're frenzied, then you could keep your side of the board and it would just transform your opponent's board. But if you're, this is an 8 mana card, okay? This is only gonna be played in control decks, at least at the higher level of play, and you're not gonna have a board at 8 mana. Like, it's very unlikely.
You know, or if you do, you're looking to close the game. And I mean, yeah, there's times where you kind of need to, you know, maybe you swing face and play End Times because they have a dangerous board too. But I don't know, far and few between. And I guess I haven't played enough board wipe death recently to know if this slots in. But if I just thinking about it, I looked at it and thought the same thing. Like, there's there's already better stuff out there, and even in a zombie deck, you're not really wanting to get to 8 mana. So I don't think this sees any play for a while.
No, I guess you could argue that. Well, what if you ran End Times and the Plague? But it's like, how many board wipes does Death need? Because we already have, you know, and on my list, I run 3. I run 2 APOCs and 1 End Times. Like, I don't need any more. So we have Black Blood Blast too, which used to be pretty good. That's a 6 mana board clear. You take 8 damage, but yeah, I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
Maybe if they made it 7 mana, it'd be more appealing.
Maybe, but then the question is, are we overloading Death with late game board clears again? Which
Probably.
I mean, in itself, is it a late game board clear? Yeah, but I guess it's just maybe this card is released so that the other players can experience what's close to a board wipe Death without having like access to APOCs and stuff like that.
So APOCs, they are a little pricey, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, dude, they were peaking at like 250, 260. I was like, oh my god. I was like, maybe it's time to sell these bad boys. No.
Yeah, I'm never selling my APOCs.
I know you're not, dude. It's your favorite deck.
For sure.
Fun deck. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's all the death cards, so yeah, for all you viewers out there, appreciate you tuning in. I think we're gonna have one more video in this series because I didn't cover the neutral cards, and there's definitely some neutral cards that I'd like to talk about. We have a big shout out to Virtual Deity. Thanks for coming on the channel. Is there anything you want to plug? Any shout outs you want to give?
No, not particularly. Just thanks for having me, Baba. Thanks, Cujo. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well, no problem. Yeah, with that, I guess we'll wrap things up here. So until next time, guys, peace.